Hey out there, this is Friday, June 8th, 2018, and it's just about 9:12 in the morning here in Northern California. And today, as usual, I'll get into a lot of stuff, but I wanted to try to keep the pontification period a little shorter if possible. Last week I kind of went off the rails a little, I guess, like Alex Jones would say, let the dog off the leash. But, my passion is real, and my emotions are real, and my frustration is real with the entire established system, let's say. And my frustration with people I believe to be equally intelligent as I am, but who seem to have blinders on about certain issues, and it makes me a little nuts. And I do believe that with this intellectual dishonesty business, that there's a perception of a loss of self-interest involved. So this is the motivation that people are, I believe, often only semi-consciously aware of. So it's the kind of thing they can walk away from in their mind and block out because they believe that their self-interests are at stake, that unless they keep believing the way they do, that all hell's going to break loose in their life, that that things will fall apart for them personally. And as it's been said many times, that perception is reality. That's how it is, as a man thinketh. So whatever we believe in our hearts is very important. What we believe in our minds is important. And making sure our beliefs are correct, they're proper, that they're able to be vetted by our conscience and our relationship with a higher power. Let's call it higher power, God, the Holy Spirit of truth, like Jesus put it. That we all have equal access to this all intelligent, all wise, all loving force. It's adjacent all of us at all times. And I wanted to talk about justifiable cynicism. I wanted to talk about solutions to our political, social, and economic problems, which are all interconnected. And just these blind spots that we can get because our perception is askew, and it's no surprise to somebody that's really stepped outside of the box, way outside of the box, and looked down on things, and you see, well, I understand that we've been trained from birth, you can see, to believe the way we do. So we're all inculcated just over and over. We're taught, we're trained to believe the way that we're told to believe. And it's really a small-minded, brute beast mentality. It's short-sighted. And for a reason. It's in order to steal the wealth from us, from our nation. And a nation is comprised of people. The physical geography, the real estate really is not nearly as important as we're led to believe it is. It's really all about the people, because you don't have a nation without people. It is the regular, everyday people, regular Joes out there, going off to their 9-to-5 jobs that keep the wheels of society turning, that have these jobs that are often belittled, but they're imperative to the welfare of society. So we should all, first of all, admit that truth. And when you do that, you realize just how bizarre and off-kilter the entire establishment is. I mean, if we're going to exalt anybody in society for doing something super valuable, wouldn't it be the farm workers? I mean, if we're going to pay them and reward them, appropriately and accordingly to their value, it wouldn't be so much the actors and the rappers and the singers and the jocks out there. Okay, it would be these people, because in the scheme of things, the job of a farm worker is infinitely more important than any of those people, because we need them in order to continue to exist, to survive, to live. These are the ones that help produce the food that is stored at the supermarket. And then, of course, we owe a great debt of gratitude to anybody working at the stores, storing and taking care of your food. And it's the same way with other essential human needs, too. That these are very important things. The transportation industry, anybody involved in the food industry, food service industry is very important. Uh, we vaunt the education industry, but look how they treat the teachers. Or they're paid subpar by their wages. They're not proven how valuable they are. Maybe for some of the professors, some of the colleges and the big wigs in the colleges, they make above average incomes. These politicians, look at them, the pays that some of these people get. But it's all off kilter, and we've got to just admit that first and foremost. And fundamentally, you've got to get that there's very little in this entire established system that makes much sense, really. And so when you admit that, it allows your perception to change of your own free will and accord. You say, yeah, I have been believing a lie. I've been believing this way, and I get it now. I get why, because my teachers believe that way, or my parents believe that way, or my peers, my coworkers, my friends, family, strangers. So many people have this small-minded brute beast mentality just above an automaton, because the grand puppeteers, the puppet masters, don't want that much of a hands-on situation with the masses. They like to stay in the shadows and just pull strings and control us, manipulate us, steer us, corral us in the direction they want from afar. And they do this through the policies they create, or the lack of policies. And this has to do with the police, policy and police, close relationship in the words, and has to do with regulations and rules and laws and stuff, and the ones that they decide to enact and the ones that they decide to ignore. And we're all subject to living under these conditions, this unjust from Jump Street, from the get-go, okay, that is fostering the misery in our land, the death and destruction and despair we see, all emanates from that root cause of these evil people, these elitists, these hypocrites at the very top. It's the same caliber, the same mentality of people that have been ruling the roost, running the show for thousands of years. It's the coin clipping class, the money printing class, and all those snuggled up to them, all those sycophant, boot-licking, brown-nosed piss ants, excuse my French, but I'm going to try today to keep the dog on the leash and be calm and as peaceful as possible, not get upset, and hopefully not insult or offend anybody, because that's not the object. I want to be a unifier. I want to be, like the scripture says, a peacemaker. This is my thing. This is what I really want to do, because I know if I do one little thing and contribute to that, my reward is ensured. I'm going to get a reward. I don't need to get paid for anything I do, because I'm getting paid, okay, in ways that people don't understand. Maybe a lot of people do, okay. I know there's some very decent, upright, righteous people that hunger and thirst for righteousness to be the rule of the day in the land. I'm just one of those. I want to be a good brother to humanity, not some humanity, but all humanity. I want to teach people that there's really very little difference between a true liberal and a true conservative, a good socialist and a good capitalist, between a good Democrat and a good Republican. Okay, we're all Americans, and beyond that, we're all human beings. Okay, and we need to understand that we are being divided deliberately, by deliberation. This is a plan. They need to divert our attention away from them. Because the last thing these evildoers want, that have been ruling the roost for thousands of years, is for we the people, all the people of the planet, to come together as one force against them, because we'll be unstoppable. They know that. And what is the demand? The demand is basically justice, social, political, and economic justice. Remember, all these things are conflated by nature. And money is the key element here. This is how we're being controlled. This is how these people maintain this fear-driven unreality. I say unreality because it's a conjured up make believe, inorganic, unnatural reality that's been inflicted on it. It's invented. It's fictitious. But it's very powerful because they have this thing called money that they control. And the last thing these people want is for the people to figure out how we're being kept down, how we're being enslaved, okay, in perpetuity. And so many people, I call them mindless jingoists, that just vaunt the virtues of America, and this is why everybody wants to come here, and that's the proof that America is the best, the land of opportunity and all this, and without pointing out the fact that we've been going downhill for one hell of a long time, at least since 1963 that I know of, since the assassination of JFK. And we've got to ask ourselves who benefited from that. JFK was a Democrat, as we all know. Some might say a liberal. But a conservative would say, well, actually his policies would ended up being fiscally prudent and therefore conservative in that sense. It's not a tax and spend Robin Hood socialist kind of thing. He was bringing sound economic policies which would have created prosperity across the board. In other words, all those farm workers I'm talking about, they could have been middle-class homeowners too, and they wouldn't be leaving the farms. Locally here, this is something I put in my current events notes here, but I was going to talk about it anyhow. But they say they're having a labor shortage, you know, the Trump crackdown. In California, of course, as we all know, is a sanctuary state, so ICE is kept on a short leash, and there's a lot of protectionism for the illegal migrants. You know, after hearing the story, I thought, you know what, it's one-sided. They're not talking about reality here. They're talking about their version of reality, these farmers. These farmers have a huge subsidy they get from we the people. Food stamps is one example of that. This is how the subsidies get to them, because without the food stamps, people would be buying a hell of a lot less food. So that's just a matter of fact. They would stick to very simple staples, like if they really had to, it'd be diets like beans and rice and eggs, stuff like that. That's pretty much very cheap. But very nutritious too. So the fact is that is one form of subsidies to these farms. But what they're not talking about is the fact that they're not paying these people a living wage. There was no discussion at all in this piece. They went on and just how stupid you people that think all this illegal immigration is bad, but they're not keeping their workers. These workers, they don't want to do that job. If they can wriggle out of it and do something else, I mean, they're going to do it. I mean, who wouldn't? If I was, if things were, the roles were reversed and things were much better south of the border, opportunity, and I was some desperate, poverty-stricken American, I get it. I mean, we can all, let's put ourselves in their shoes. We understand that we might want to do the same thing, and then, would be vaunted as heroes in our homeland. We go down there and we're sending money home, and, we're keeping it together, even though we're living maybe 20, 30, 40 people. They found one house with 118 people in it, I remember, living in it to keep their expenses low. So this is how it works. So yeah, they would say it, but how would they feel about me south of the border? Because I'd be bringing down wages, I'd be competing for those jobs, I'd be much hungrier and more desperate. So I'd be willing to do those things, that the others weren't. But my eye was on those better jobs. I knew I wanted to be an independent landscape gardener, for example. I knew that, hey, if I could just get a loan, and the banks, they want to do this is all what it's all about. Commerce. That's why I call it the Chamber of Communists, because they know that it's a head count. They know that the more the merrier. Bring them in. They're consumers. It'll put a demand on commodities and services. That's inevitable. That's what people do. So understand the underlying reasons why there's all these business interests that are in favor of immigration. They don't want to fix the problem because they love this pool, huge, massive pool of desperate, starving people south of the border that are willing to do anything for money. Okay, so understand this. If they raise the pay to $50,000 a year for these farm workers, and they had, just a regular work week that other people do, an 8-hour work week or whatever, 8-hour work day, which is a lot. When you think about it, certain times of the year, man, that's sun up to sundown. That's devoting your entire life to a job. Think about it. And it's totally unnecessary. When you look at all the jobs that are being done out there that are really marginally important, if at all. I mean, look at the entire financial services industry. 25% of Americans employed in that. That means you're paying everybody, we're all paying these prices. It's reflected in the price for services. It's reflected in the price of commodities. So, it's all the insurance companies.